So today I'm doing another site migration from Siteground to Hostinger. I've been a long-term user of Siteground, and they've got their service, pretty slick, and I would recommend them as a host. However, their prices have become quite steep for renewal, so you often see with hosts what happens is you get a very good deal at the front end, and you might sign up for a year or 2 years, but then when it comes to renewal, the increased costs go to even like 10 times what you were paying, which, if you're a business, that's fine. It's an expense, and it's still within the realms of decent money. But I think certainly a lot of websites that people own are hobbyist sites, and you don't want to start incurring $400 bills per year moving forward. So that's one reason why you might want to move your host. There are some absolutely awful host companies out there, and you might really be struggling with some functional feature, so you need to move a host for that reason, or you're just dissatisfied. Hosting a reasonably new kids on the block, and therefore to get subscribers, they're offering some really good deals, and I found the performance is good, even shared hosting, and it's perfect for some of my hobbyist demo sites. And today we're going to move one of those across into Hostinger. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be blurring out or covering parts of my screen so I don't inadvertently share the wrong things, so forgive me for that. But this is going to be a Joomla website migration. They're not as easy to migrate into hosting, and that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video too. There's some idiosyncrasies and things. Now, I've done quite a few of these, and so I'm expecting there to be bumps in the road, and I want to show you some of the workarounds that I've used. So thanks for watching. Appreciate a like on this video if it helps answer your question, or encourages you to maybe move hosts. Let's get going. So steps in a typical migration: we want to create an FTP account to download the JPA file. The JPA file will be created in the website. So let's bring up our demo site. For a start, this is a test website landed at, and we will show you this is the standard way of how we've already got backup out of date. So let's back up now. Hang on, let's go back. No back button. What I wanted to do is check to see if I've got all the components first, and see if there's other things. I do know I've got a component that's out of date that I won't be updating, that I need to phase out of this site. But otherwise, yeah, we can go ahead and run and get a new JPA file. This gets created in the administrator folder in the backend, and we want to then go ahead and use FTP to download that. So yeah, I'll come back in a minute and we should have our JPA file. So we've now created our backup here today through using the wonderful Akeeba backup, and I don't know of another option. Haven't needed to find another option because I've soldiered through the Hostinger issues that we're having, and which is partly what I'm going to show you today. So yes, you can download your JPA file here, but it's not the best way to do it, and you don't really want corrupt data. So let's go ahead and do it the right way. If you click on this, you get the file name you want, and we've also created it today, so these are unique names, and so you can find it quickly by just referencing that. And this is the path in the previous or the current website. So we need to FTP into that. Let's go ahead and see if we've got an FTP account set up or not. So this is the Siteground interface for the website, and I've clicked on FTP accounts here. We don't have one, so I'm just going to create one here. I'm going to generate a password, and I'm going to copy that. And what you want to do is you want to have a file in a secure place where so this is going to be FTP password, and the username was Cal. So it's up to you how you save things, but this will make your life easier moving forward. So I'm going to obviously do it for myself in the way that works for me. You do it in the way that works for you. I'm just using a secure Google document here. You could use a text file on your machine or a piece of paper, if you want to, but I think you get problems then with, typos and stuff. So this is how I've done it, and it's pretty secure. So hopefully the blurring, I didn't forget to blur it out. So yeah, so don't go hacking me, please. So we create this FTP account, and then this is the actual username gets usually created here. So it usually is what the domain is. So it's what you put in at the domain. So we can replace this here with that, just for your understanding a bit more. So we're going to now go to Filezilla, which is what I use. This is an FTP client. There are applications. There are a few others out there, but we just want to click here, and I'm going to create a new site, and I'm going to call this SG for Siteground, and then I'm going to call it a name that I know works. So it's an empty setup here, so you have to fill out these 3 boxes. That's my username, and the host. Sometimes this will be your website domain. You have to just basically check when you set up the account. You'll get information about what the login details are. So you basically just want to put those in. FTP defaults at port 21, and what else? We needed our password. So this is where we needed to save our password, you see. So we'd have lost that from the copy and paste board, so we need to be able to do that, and that should now connect to this website. Click OK there, and this is a typical server setup with public_HTML. That's not always consistent, but here we can see now we have this is our root of our application, index.php, our htaccess file, and some other files as well, sitemap. You'll recognize that. If you don't and you're just starting out, yeah, you might have some other, learnings to do before this all makes sense. But what we're after today is to go into our administrator components, Akeeba backup, and it's in backup. So our file was, if I go back to it, it's dagpk, and then if I look along, we should see that this was created today, and that's all good. So this is the one that we want. I've got a temp file here. I'm just going to double click on this, which will start the download into whatever file's on this side. And you could use SFTP and the command line to get your files. I just find it's such a convenience to have a graphical user interface for FTP. I did start to do lots more with the command line when I built my own server, and I used DigitalOcean for that. But I just found myself always having to update it, and it took quite a long time. I'm actually a big believer in shared hosting when it's done right and with a good host. I don't experience hacking. I don't think that's something that's drastically increases your chance of getting hacked if you're on a shared host. Not a good one anyway. So yeah, and let's come back to this when this is downloaded. So effectively, what we've done, in summary, is we have created an FTP account, and we've recently backed up our site to a JPA file, which is effectively the database and all the files within that file, everything you need to recreate the site effectively. And we're going to see that in action shortly. So that's the next step. And we've yet to create the new space for our site on the new host, but we'll also have a look at that too. We're just in the hosting control panel, and we're ready to create a new website, and I'm just going to go through the steps to do that. Now, we don't need any of these, and I don't want a personalized experience. I'm not a big fan of wizards. If you kind of need them, okay, and they might help you in some circumstances if you're building your own website, but you know, today we don't want any of that. We just want a blank website. Yes, we do want to migrate a website, but if you go down this path, you will find that's just for WordPress, and I don't think they offer a solution for a Joomla migration either. Certainly not a free one. So what we want to do is create an empty website. We want to do it for ourselves anyway, and it will be faster, and we want to learn these skills and become a better webmaster. So we've already got a domain. We're not looking to buy or to claim a free domain that we might have got with our hosting package that we would then have to renew year on year and would become a certain liability. So we want to use an existing domain. And here it's important to put just the domain in. You're not looking for the protocol such as that. So you just want the domain and hit continue. Now in the back end, when you do this with a host, what happens is it creates a folder typically with that exact name you've just put in there. So that's why that step's critical. And that's also used by the DNS. The DNS will point to the hosting a service, and what's just happened in the background is there is a mapping that's set up to that folder which will become your website. So that path is important, as we'll see later. I don't want to connect any of this. I'm going to do this all manually myself later. And effectively what it's saying is that the domain name is pointing to whatever this resolves out to. This is a Cloudflare, a free Cloudflare account, which I recommend using. And it's so if we changed the name servers to this, wherever we bought our domain, if we change the domain servers to this, we would bypass this, and this would point straight to Hostinger, okay, which would still work, would work as well. But I'm using what's called a proxy, so I'm sending the effective traffic that goes to landed to Cloudflare, and in Cloudflare we'll see later the settings that then push it on to this name server. So we're just going to hit continue here. So we're going to be doing quite a lot in the control panel. We still don't want to connect our domain, so let's just click through to manage site. It's opened up a new window for us, and effectively we've now just created our blank site within Hostinger, and this is the Hostinger interface. We've got the typical setup, and they've actually done their homework. It's very, very similar to Siteground. If you use Siteground and are happy with Siteground, you will you will find that these match up almost certainly, and you've got everything you need. So you've got we've got, don't want to too much worry about some of these things. We've got free SSL creation through Let's Encrypt, email accounts you'll need. So if you wanted to work with subdomains or redirects, that's in there. And the website, we've got some interesting options. So you could go ahead and create, you know, a new WordPress site here. We don't want to do anything in there, but one thing we might look at is the file manager. So if we click on that and access the files, we'll get a look at. So this is the new web space. Do not upload here. So it's inside the public. And we've got this default page. Now the site is actually live on the existing server. So we want as smooth a transition as possible. So we don't want to interrupt that until we're absolutely ready to move across. And that will be handled by the DNS switching. So when the DNS switches, you want it so that the website is stable and working perfectly on the new server. That's the goal. So we've come here and we've created our new blank site on the host, and we're ready to upload when we've created an FTP account. I'll do that in the same way as I did the other one. I won't go through those steps again. They're very similar. And I will upload the showing of the JPA file.
A few moments later.
So this is the format for the temporary domain, and I might have missed it when it gave me that when I created the blank website. I will see on the recording when I go to edit it a bit later, but this is the format it takes. So Hostinger have bought previewdomain.com and used that, and then they create this redirect, and when you go here, it loads up your default. So this is what, and you see this annoying banner here. So this is what we see. This is the default .php. So if we view and edit this, so we'll load up Atom. It will download the file, open it with Atom. I actually use VS Code for stuff like this now, but for some reason Filezilla clung on to Atom. I'd have to uninstall Atom. I don't want to do that. But this is the page we're seeing. So if I wanted to stick something into the body, if I hit save there, I will say yes, and it will have transferred and made that change. I'm just proving that this is, we should see, if we view the source, we can see my edit here live. So we don't need to go and edit that because this page is getting deleted anyway. So this is just to show you what the preview domain is and how it works. But the problem with the preview domain is that Akeeba extract wizard, a kickstart, doesn't like it. I have managed to do it through kickstart before, but effectively that's where the issues come, and that's going to be the crux of the migration really. So this is the existing site. We've taken this JPA, we've downloaded it through FTP, we've uploaded that to the new Hostinger plan, and we now have, oh, I've still got to do that step. So here's the JPA, and here's my file. So this will take a little bit of time to upload. I'm not going to make you wait through that, but effectively we are going to come back into here. We've explained the temporary domain. When that JPA file is uploaded, we're also going to upload kickstart. Let's go and get kickstart, and we can start that while that's downloading. So you will go Akeeba, kickstart, download. I'm just showing you the steps of how you would go through it. This is the stable version. What we want to view the files. We don't need the documentation, we just need to download now. That's downloaded, and so let's have a look if I can do this. So we've just downloaded this zip, we had it already. I'm just going to double click it on a Mac. What that does is extracts it and you just get the two files that you need. These two files need to go up into the root of the JPA file. This is where I'm working from, and effectively I'm downloads. So I want these two. I'm going to stick them somewhere here so that I've got them in a more handy place here. I do need to click refresh, and here we have them ready to go up. So what I'll do is I'll just put these in the queue as well. So this is the FTP queue. So if you didn't follow that, all we did was downloaded the kickstart.php wizard, and what that will do is that will work with the JPA. It will extract the JPA and run the wizard, and all we still need to do is create an empty database with settings that will go into the wizard. The wizard will unpack the database into that new empty database, and all the files for the website will be extracted in the root right here. Now, yesterday I was trying to use a subdomain for a website, so it would be migrate.sitename.com. So that would allow me then to work on the migrated website and get it perfectly working under this domain migrate.website.com. But there's an issue with Hostinger in that to navigate to a subdomain, you have to create a subdomain in Hostinger. So if we were in here, this is our, we need to domains, subdomains. So their support told me I needed to do something like this, because I wanted to unpack and build into migrate.landed.app, for example. Custom folder for subdomain. So we have the option here to use the public HTML directory. That's good. I missed that yesterday. So this is a way that we can do it, but there's actually a simpler way that I'm going to show you anyway. However, what this does is creates migrate inside here, which is unwanted. You don't want an extra folder. It wouldn't hurt in all cases, but it's just not tidy. I don't like it. That would be one way to do it, but we can leverage. I don't use www. I just think it's untidy as well, so I redirect all my wwws just to .landed.app. So I am in a position where I can use www as a special kind of subdomain, which it is, and use that instead of migrate. Then I don't have the Hostinger issue of creating this directory. So, but this looks like, I don't think this was available yesterday, so maybe my support question has got them to give this option. But effectively, we don't want to create a subdomain. We shouldn't need to, because when we set up the DNS to point to the new site from Cloudflare, that will be, it's a domain in its own right, and it should point to the root directory. We shouldn't have to need to point it to yet another directory called migrate. So I'm going to get around to that shortly, and let's just summarize what we've just now done. So we're now uploading our new JPA file. Upload start files to root. So you take those steps, and when they are there, you can then extract and run the JPA by running. That would be how you use the preview domain, but what I wanted to use was migrate.landed.at/kickstart.php. When you use this kind of way, it works, but Kickstart hates this preview domain. So we'll get into that and see if it's going to work. Instead of doing the migrate, the other thing that I did was this. So you can create your website could be this www can totally change where that URL points to through the DNS settings in Cloudflare, and we'll look at that, and it should make more sense. But the point being is that we have to do some gymnastics to get through Hostinger. There's something weird where Hostinger doesn't like this, and you might be stuck on that like I was stuck on that. So I've got these ways of getting around it basically. So yeah. So let's go ahead and create our empty database, which we will need in the next step. You can do that when you come to need it at any time really, so we're just going to do it now, and that's under databases management. Hostinger actually do this in one step. They create the user and the database at the same time, so and a database user. So that threw me a little bit for a start. So we want to see what password they've selected, and we want to copy that and put that into our new site. So this is database, and password is that. I will be changing all of these, obviously. When I come to publish, so let's just, oh, I've changed it there, I didn't mean to. Go back. And cal is fine. Let's just see if we can create that as landed to make it more site relevant. Yeah. And now we've got our user and database that share the same name. That's quite handy really. So when it comes to connections, and that's all we need to remember and be able to copy back. And we're still uploading our JPA. It's quite size on this. Is it 640 megabyte for this particular site? So we are pretty much then uploading Kickstart, where we'll be able to run and see if we get the issues with the temporary domain or not. We've now uploaded the new JPA file to the new host, and we've also uploaded Kickstart files to the root, and we've got created a blank database ready to go, so we're effectively ready for this stage now. Let's go and look at the files. So here we go. We don't need this default. This default, if you remember, is this page here. So that can be deleted in due course, but I'm going to leave it for now, because if there's any issues I can have a sanity check that that's still working and running as it should. But this is the file that we want to run. You might have a need of a different language file, and if you do, then this will be different for you, and you would have selected that when you downloaded the different one. So Kickstart will look for a JPA file. Now the path with a preview domain is the first thing that causes issues. But let's go and see if we can do it with the preview domain. If we can, then we don't need to do too much with Cloudflare DNS at this stage. So we need to go /kickstart.php, hit enter. Okay, so it's found the page and we know we're good. So we click escape. This banner is so annoying. Why do they do that? And it has actually found the file okay, which is strange because it didn't used to. And normally you don't have to touch any of these settings because they're all optimum. So you'll click start and see what happens. Yeah, this is what happens. So the preview domain causes an issue here. So one of the things that's an issue is this is not the correct domain. So what happens is that folder got created, if you remember. So it's actually, and it uses dots for the thing. So effectively you need to remove the hyphen and just, mine's a .at, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but yours is probably a .com or a .co.uk. So you would have yoursite.com or you would have yoursite.co.uk. That's how the folder gets created, if you remember in that earlier step. So mine is a .at, and that should fix things, but it doesn't. So this is where you have lots of head scratching. You could go back to their support and they will start telling you you need to do subdomain stuff and all kinds of things to get this to work. So we need to bring in Cloudflare, and we've got, so I'm just bringing in my Cloudflare account for this. And so what we're going to use, because we don't want to introduce a folder, we're just going to use the www. If you use www, you won't be able to use this method because you'll be using www. Then you would need to create a temporary system like migrate.landed.app or new.landed.app, and you would set that record here. I'm just going to use the www in exactly the same way as you would create a new A record. Well, maybe we should just do that. Let's add an A record, and we want to call it new. Now this is the bit where we've got to get our IP address from our new account. So plan details. Here's our website IP address. That's where we need this to go. And because we're going to have to do the DNS work now, there's going to be some propagation time before new starts to work. I don't want to proxy anything other than, because we're not proxying files, and I'm just rerouting the DNS, so that's all I want to do for that for the moment. And then click save. So this you would do in exactly the same way for the www version. What I do is redirect www to the root domain through htaccess through a redirect. So we're going to try this new version and see if we can get to our site quickly. But so now we're looking at, instead of using this, we're going to be doing that. But where does that resolve and when is what we might have to wait for the DNS to catch up and propagate properly. You get all kinds of weird errors until it, you know, stuff like this happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the video and come back when this is working properly, because this is not working yet and you can't expect it to work that quickly. So we're going to come back and do that shortly. But the point being that you could test for ages with the preview domain, and Akeeba just doesn't like it. I have managed to do some migrations with it, so you could try a different JPA file, but I just find that there's something it doesn't like. It trips some spam control, and when you talk to their support, they kind of say it's not that or anything, but it gets very hard to determine what's going on without access to the log files, which is just a pain. Anyway, this way works better, and this will now point to your new website, and the old website will actually function. So that should 404. Yeah, so my old site is running perfectly fine, which is what we wanted. So you know, we could have taken this site down during the migration, but I'm building the new site now on new.landed.app. That is not working yet. So back in a sec. So the DNS is propagating properly. What I was actually not realizing was that we were trying to run HTTPS, and certificates aren't set up for this now. And that is one of the tricky things, because trying to run certificates pointing to two different websites on the same root domain is kind of what certificates are designed to actually stop. So there is a little bit of jiggery pokery required. So what we're going to have to do is run PHP, so manually have this was the error we were getting before. So it's trying to provide a secure connection, so we don't want it to do the secure connection. And it's likely some caching as well that is causing that. So you can try things inside incognito mode too, but effectively, this is why I left the default version in there. It's showing lost. So this is where we have the hosting issue of the subdomain, if you remember. So I would have normally have expected that DNS points now to their server, but what they are confused about is the new dot part. So we go in subdomains. If we create new here, I actually want to specify the public directory. So let's create that and see what that gives. I really don't want to see a new folder. So effectively, this should now point to the right spot. And I think this takes a short time, 5 minutes or so. No, it's worked. But have we got, I don't want there to be, no, that will be working. I don't want to have a new folder here. Seem to have backed it up automatically for us, that default page. They didn't need to. Anyway, let's see now. And as always, landed.app will point to the original website. This is a different server, and what's happening now is new. I need to take off the HTTPS because we're not. New.landed.app is actually pointing to our hostinger page here. So we should now be able to run kickstart.php, and this might be the bit that was tripping you up, and what you'll find is now you get the correct path here, and that you can start, and bingo, it works. So that is what you need to do. The preview domain causes issues. Hopefully hosting might see this video and see that there is, what the problem is, or start to debug it a little bit and help them out. So let's carry on and run the installer. So I think it was just the wrong password combination or something. So the database restoration went fine. I'm going to click next. We don't want to save anything yet on this. Right, there's some settings here that will make things a little bit easier for us moving on. You want to have this set to none initially, and I think Akeeba could make that none, but cookie domain as well. We want to call this website this basically, and we want to set the live. I don't want to change the htaccess because I've got some redirects in there I don't want to lose. So you could either copy them across, but what I will do is I'll show you how I do it. This is all fine. I do want to reset the caching options because there might be some specific memcache stuff that will stop the site working, and I want to reset the session options as well, and I want the live site URL. This is a URL, not a domain. So the difference is that's a domain. When I do that, it turns it into a URL because the URL is a protocol and a domain. So we're not forcing SSL, so this should actually be okay. Now what we're doing is kind of building our site now to connect to the database and to unpack the rest, and let's see how we go. I've fixed the issue. What it was a couple of those memcache and Redis entries. These are going to be different for each host, so if there are any remaining in your configuration, you do need to get rid of them, and they usually won't break a site from not being there, they break a site from being there. So that's your first port of call. You can check the server logs if that doesn't seem to make a difference. But when you get server errors like a 500 type of error, that means that there's a deeper seated issue before the application even starts to run. So the server hasn't actually started to be able to process your PHP at that point. So, and that is often due to server misconfigurations. So we've actually got it working. That's what I wanted to just show. We're on new.lambda.at, and this is a very handy site, one of the best that I've seen, dnschecker.org, and you can actually see we've got our IP address that's coming from the new version, and I don't know if so www should actually go to the old server. I don't know if I've got that set to redirect. Yeah, I've got that set to redirect in the htaccess so that you won't see that. So I could have used www, like I've said before. Instead of using new, we could have leveraged the IP address in here. And I think when this is DNS only, this IP gets exposed. If we proxy it, then I believe that we may only see the DNS that comes from. We'll check that back in a minute. I think we might not be able to see the final DNS there because it will be obfuscated by Cloudflare. I'm not sure on that one. But anyway, new. So one is page is getting served from the server. I'm not sure where that server is actually, the Siteground one now. I think it might be in the States. this one with hosting is as well. So forward add. And here we go. And we've not redirected. Interestingly though, it has been able to, I think it's using the Cloudflare version of that. So if we go into system, and here's where you'll need to go in and check with your new server. You need to set things up and go through and do these sort of checks. So you need to go through all of these. We do want to do some caching, so we'll do conservative caching at the moment. That will set some of those entries in the configuration file. This session I just leave as database, generally speaking, and we can turn this back off because we don't have any PHP errors. So here's where we can force it. I do that as a last step when I'm sure when I do the final migration across. Things are working currently, so I just don't need this to give me an extra set of complications right now. And as you can see, the database on this website is loading our new table. Sorry, we're loading our new database from our new server. And we do need to go in and change these. These are the old sites. So if I try and send a mail now, that will fail because it won't. There'll be some security that say it will try and send the message out, but the domain will be looked at as new.lambda.at. So deliverability would certainly be an issue. But you can actually set up your mail server completely on a different server, which a lot of people do choose to do. They use Google My Business or whatever for their mail. I mean, there's privacy issues when I set I like to get clients to use their own emails. I don't like issues that come along with emails, so I usually suggest and help them set up on Google, and then they've got more of a secure private thing going forward. Google's never going out of business, so that's what I suggest businesses do, and then that keeps me clear of any privacy concerns, because as a host, if you're setting up people with emails, you've potentially got access to their emails, which isn't good. So definitely don't fall into that trap, and tell your clients, so that's where we're at now. So the website's working. We've done the migration. The next steps are to do some testing and to change these IP addresses over, which I'm going to do now. So this is now I know the website is working. I'm going to copy that IP and I'm going to change all of these across to the new site, just like that. And the mail one too. Going to do all of them. So yeah, I'm going to stop the video there. We'll see what else there is to cover. Like I said, I've just been going through some of this stuff, and then obviously I need to go back and change my passwords and things. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope this has shown you how to do a site migration with Akeeba backup, kickstart, and from the idiosyncrasies that hosting brings. But yeah, thanks. This video's kind of gone on, so I'm gonna shut up now. But please do like and subscribe, and just drop a link in any dev groups if you got something out of it, because it all helps. Thank you. Have a good one. We're actually not finished yet, so there's the SSL to do, which I'd forgotten about, and there's some handy tips here. So the DNS now for the main site has switched across. If we look at the DNS settings in Cloudflare, you can see that I've set the IP to, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to change these MX records as well. But for the moment, don't be too concerned with the emails. We've now got our website moved across, and the issue is the invalid SSL certificate. So what's happened is, obviously it's a different server and the certificate spotted that, and that's exactly what its job is supposed to do as one job. So the certificates from the Siteground Let's Encrypt, so we need to change that. We can delete that from Siteground, but effectively we need to actually just fix it from the hosting side first. Preventing that is some SSL settings though. We need to turn it off, and we need to look at the edge certificates setting too and disable universal SSL down here. I've just found this is the order that works for me, and I'm not fully understanding certificates. It is a very complicated thing, but we also need to turn it off here. We need to take this step while we build the hosting certificate. So as my understanding is, we could have the certificate from Cloudflare, but we kind of want the certificate to be passed through Cloudflare from Hostinger. I understand that's the better way. So we've now got our site here, and this would be, yes, under security, so SSL. It's probably showing a failed install at this point. Yeah, so we need to delete this one, uninstall that one anyway. And we need to uninstall the other one as well, or reinstall. So we should be able to reinstall now, because we've turned off, and also the DNS kind of needs to be propagated properly before you can do this step. So there is this little clunky kind of part and area to it. So what will happen here is this will install, and then you can go ahead and revert back the Cloudflare SSL settings as they were just undone, redo them. Hopefully I'll show that step. This should install in a moment. If it doesn't install, it's because there's still some propagation issues. It hasn't yet been a half an hour, so sometimes you have to wait, the 24 hours. So it's quite amazing how quick things propagate now compared to the old days. But yeah, so that's what this little segment of video is showing helpfully. So